Do you find it challenging to upgrade to Logos Bible software or buy Logos Bible software? Perhaps the licensing is too confusing or challenging and it's too much to think through. Well, in this video, I want to help you by just breaking it down into the two key things you really need to know and understand to simplify purchasing Logos Bible software. So let's get into it. At the time of filming, Logos 10 has just been released, and that means that there's some pretty good deals on. Logos actually has a 30% discount going if you follow this link just here, and I'm not sure how long it's going to last for, but it's worth checking it out anyway, because even if there's not a 30% discount, there'll be some sort of discount at this link. So go take that link and upgrade or get a copy of Logos for yourself. But in this video, we want to talk about, okay, what sort of decisions do you need to think through as you consider buying Logos Bible software? Because Logos Bible software really contains two key things you need to think about as you go to purchase, and it's wading through those two key things that can become quite challenging. But really, at the end of the day, upgrading to Logos Bible software or buying Logos Bible software is simple if you're just getting started and all you're doing is basic Bible reading and maybe a little bit of studying, taking notes, that kind of thing. It's really easy. Get the Foundations edition, which at the time of this is only available for Logos 9. Logos 10 version of that will come soon. That's only $50 and you get some free books with it. If you follow the link below, it takes you to, at this stage anyway, Logos 10, which doesn't include the Foundations edition at this point, but we'll talk about this anyway. So that's the basic version that will get you the ability to take some notes and things like that, and then you can just add the resources that you need as you need them later on. But that's basic. But if you're a pastor or if you're in the original languages, this gets a lot more complicated very, very quickly. And that's really where I want to help you work through all of this. So that's what I want to do. And Logos does actually help you with this. They actually have a pretty helpful Help Me Choose wizard, which I'll put in the description below so you can go find that and follow that link as well. It's pretty straightforward to use and it makes working through some of the details pretty easy by comparison. So that's a good tool to sort of follow, just to sort of answer some questions. And some of the things there are multi-choice, so you can choose more than one option. Some of them are single, but it will just help you sort of get a bit of a feel for where they think you should probably be. So this video really is designed to help you sort of think through the process for yourself and some of the things that sit in behind that. So I said at the beginning that there are really two things that you need to factor into your purchasing decision when it comes to Logos Bible software. The first and the most underrated perhaps is the software features that Logos offer you. And Logos actually give you feature sets, and they sell these in the different bundles. So when you look at features such as bronze, silver, gold, and so on, you're actually looking not only at the books in it, but also at the feature sets. And I want to make that really simple for you. So the basic features of Logos Bible software start with the interface, the ability to take notes, and some really basic things that you just expect from Bible software. And those are all available in the starter edition of Logos Bible software. And that's really the beginning point. And at this point in time of writing, because the Fundamentals edition is only available for Logos 9, this is really the starter pack or the starter edition that you probably want to get if you want the basic features. Now, in terms of Logos 10 features, it does include some new stuff in here that you won't get with the Fundamentals edition, such as church history themes, fact book tags, and there's a number of workflows that are also included here that you might find helpful just for basic Bible study. So that's the starter edition, and then there's a number of books that come with that, and that would be really the basic edition that you probably want to get at this point if you're just interested in getting into Logos Bible software at the bottom level. However, if you're interested in doing more than that, and particularly if you're interested in, say, using Logos on a mobile device, then you want to go for perhaps the bronze feature set. The bronze feature set is really oriented around a really good mobile experience, which means that on an iPad, for instance, if you want to write on screen, that functionality is in the bronze edition. There's also the ability to use the translation tool on the mobile edition, at least here. And then there's some original language things as well, such as the New Testament use of the Old, as an alphabet tutor, and there's a number of other little things that get you into some of those more advanced kind of and technical things as well. And included, of course, in the bronze feature set is things like the morph search, so you can look for certain verbs in Greek that have a certain parsing or something, and also the clause search as well. That's all in the bronze feature set, and so that would be a good one if you're just sort of wanting mobile stuff and maybe some of the basic language-oriented tools. Now, if you find yourself preaching on a regular basis, then you're probably going to want to go for the silver feature set, because this is where the sermon manager and the sermon builder is, and this is where you can start to build handouts and things like that. It also includes things like the preaching mode, and then of course the counseling guide, and there's a number of other features that are really designed for pastors. So if you're a pastor or involved in pastoral ministry in some sense, then probably the silver feature set is the one you want to go for. However, if you've got a large print library, like you've already been buying books for however long it's been that you've been buying them, and you want to make use of those books, then the print library catalog is only available in the full feature set. And that's really the killer feature of the full feature set. So if you're not needing that, then probably the silver feature set is going to be sufficient for you. And maybe even the bronze feature set if you don't worry about preaching and counseling and some of those kinds of things. So that's probably a good overview of the features that you get in Logos Bible Software. And let me know in the comment section below which one of these best suits you and why. What do you do that's going to demand that level, that feature set that we've just been talking about here? So that's it in a nutshell. There is a lot more to this, of course, and I encourage you to check out the links in the description to find out more about Logos Bible Software and how to jump around and find all the different features that are available in all the different editions. It's a bit of work. It's a long page. It takes a long time to sort of work through it. So I don't really encourage you to do that, but you can do it. The link's in the description below. Now, here's the thing. Before I go on to the second of the two things you need to know, let me preface it by basically saying that all these features are great, but they actually depend a little bit on the books available to you. So for instance, the fact book is only as useful as the books that the fact book can draw from. So if you have a library with, let's say, 120 books in it, which is actually a pretty reasonable library if you think about it, then the things that are going to be available to you in the fact book when you click on, you know, say presbyteros or, you know, some other thing in an English translation or whatever it happens to be, then the things that are available to you are going to be drawn from those books. So if you don't have very many books, then you're not going to find very many things available to you to draw on in those things, which means then that those feature sets are less useful than they would be if you had more resources. And this really then drives what sits in behind the second element of Logos, which you need to factor in, and that is which books, which resources do I need to factor in? And this is where it gets very tailored to your own personal specifications and needs. If you've got a huge print library, then you probably don't need to go and get, you know, every single book that you've got. You probably want the gold edition, and then you want to probably add all your books that are available in Logos into that so you can search them in Logos, but you don't necessarily need to go buy those books, which means to say you don't necessarily need to go replicate everything you've got physically anymore, but you will need that gold feature set, which is probably going to give you some of those books for the second time anyway. Now, when it comes to building a library of books inside Logos Bible Software, they've really got two approaches to doing this. One is dependent on the denominational kind of background or focus that you have. And the second one is really focused around the kind of user you are. So there are, for instance, certain libraries and packs for, say, counseling. There's one for academic resources, and there's one just the plain old standard set as well, which is just a generic kind of set that most people should work for. And typically what I recommend here is that you start with, say, a standard set. Maybe it's the bronze level or something like that, depending on the feature set you need. Then you upgrade that to whatever denominational direction you want to go in. And the reason for that, if you want to go in a denominational direction, is that typically, not because I'm for denominations, that's not the case, but the way the denominational packs tend to work is you get certain types of authors in them, and you're going to find that the kinds of authors you are after are probably going to be more prominent in one set than in another set. And this is where you really want to go through those individual book collections and see who's in them, what's in them, and which one of these is going to be the best for me. Now, if you don't know the authors, or if you don't have any particular books that you're looking for, then I would just skip the denominational ones to start with and just focus on the standard collections and just build out from there just with a basic set. However, there are a few things that we want to sort of think through and work through as we consider these things. So when it comes to thinking about the way you want to build out your library, my recommendation would be you want to start conservative and then build out over time. One of the key challenges you're going to have as time goes on is there's always going to be some books you know you really want, and there's going to be a whole bunch of other books you have no idea about. Okay, and those ones you have no idea about, sometimes they can be really useful. For instance, you go to a bookstore, you see a good book, or you listen to somebody tell you, hey, this is a great book, and you go into your Logos library and you're like, oh, I already have that. That's awesome. Those sorts of serendipitous discoveries are good if you've got books and even if you don't understand what they all are. However, personally, I'm not a huge fan of spending money on books that I don't really know if I need or not. And so I want to keep that to a minimum. And this is why I think having working with the standard collections first with the feature sets you need and then adding on, say, the denominationally oriented libraries really does reduce that, because those denominational oriented libraries tend to have a collection of authors that suit kind of where you're coming from and where you're going. And I wouldn't necessarily restrict yourself just to the one that you're part of either. Like if you're a Baptist, then don't just look at the Baptist material, look at, say, the Reformed material. Or if you're a Methodist or whatever, again, I'm going to push you toward the Reformed stuff anyway, but hey, you know, those sorts of things are worth thinking about. Look at the Verban collections as well. Sometimes there's some interesting collections in those as well, and they don't cost a lot to upgrade to because you perhaps already got a bunch of those books already. And that really is why I recommend going in that direction, because by buying the standard kit, you get some of the stuff that's already in those other denominational ones, but then when you go to upgrade them, you're really getting, you know, books and resources that you don't already have typically, but are more specific to kind of where you're coming from. So that would be my recommendation with those. So when it comes then to upgrading, first look at the features that are available in the new version of Logos, which data set or which feature set you're looking for particularly, and then do you need to add more books to your library to really make those useful? Those are the two questions you need to ask. And if you don't need to upgrade your library, if you're pretty content with the books that you've got, like I tend to be, then really you're just looking at a feature upgrade, which is the cheapest way to upgrade Logos Bible software. And that would be a great way to do it. So with that, let's talk about 4 different scenarios to help you think through which set should I get. Now, like I said at the very beginning, if you're someone who doesn't really care about working with the original languages and you're just looking at basic Bible study, then consider the Starter Edition as a base and the Bronze Edition as perhaps your stretch upgrade. That would be my recommendation. You'll probably find you've got pretty much everything you need in those 2 packs if all you're doing is some basic upgrades. Then of course you may find that there are some good books and resources that you're interested in, and if that's the case, are they in a collection somewhere? If so, is that collection cost effective? And if not, then what's it worth just to go buy those books as a group? One way to do that is once you've done the upgrades and everything, then give Logos a call if you're in the United States and see what they can do for a bundle deal for you. Sometimes they can actually reduce the price for you just a little bit on the phone. If you're preaching or pastoring, then you're probably going to want to go for the silver feature set, and my recommendation here would be to sort of work with the standard feature set to start with. And again, like I mentioned, based on that, work on expanding out into some of the denominational directions. Thirdly, then, the third group is perhaps you're somebody who's got a large physical library, and of course you probably know what I'm going to say, the gold package is going to be the one to go for. That's where you get the full feature set, and that's the one that's going to have the print library catalog building tools that you're going to want to use. So that would be my recommendation, and then from there, once you've got that, then consider what's missing in your library, if anything, and you'll probably find that you've got pretty much everything you need there. And again, I would probably just work with the standard edition for this, because again, you've probably already got everything you need in your library that's more specific to what you're interested in. So the standard edition is going to give you both the full features and a bunch of other resources that you may or may not have as well. And hopefully some of those will be books you do have, so that not only can you search them, but you can make full use of them in Logos and surface information and things like the fact book and the church history themes and things like that as well. And then finally, and this is the one that is near and dear to my heart, if you're working in the original languages, this is where it really gets complicated. And my recommendation here is that you start with at least the bronze edition of the standard kit, you add one of the academic upgrades, and you add the BDAG and Halot. You get BDAG with the academic professional bundle, but you don't get Halot, which is the best Hebrew lexicon you can get, 5 volumes. You really want to get that 5-volume Halot collection if you can as well. The best way to get that is in the BDAG plus Halot bundle. That would be my recommendation. I'm going to leave a link to all of this below so you can find the details down there. So get bronze, upgrade to that BDAG and Halot bundle, and then perhaps consider upgrading just to Academic Standard to get a bunch of other resources. And then you may want to get a Greek New Testament such as the Tyndale House Greek New Testament to go on top of that, but that's unnecessary and you'd be quite happy with some of the Greek texts that they give you in the standard academic set. So that's my recommendations, but I'd love to hear from you. What are you doing with your Logos collection? Tell me your thoughts. Have I missed anything out? Any recommendations you would make? The other thing I want to just sort of say is if you're interested in using Logos with the original languages and learning how to use the language with Logos, then we're thinking about this. And I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comment section below as well. We're thinking about how can we serve people like you so that you are able to use languages with the tools without necessarily having to learn to read the language as you would in seminary. So let me know in the comment section below if that sounds like something you're interested in, and I look forward to hearing from you there with regards to that too. With that, keep taking small consistent steps toward mastery of both the Greek New Testament, the Hebrew Old Testament, and even Logos Bible software, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. I'll see you there.